Hello, my YouTube family and friends. I'm back. So I wanted to share this video. I just have to go ahead and share this tonight because it's in my spirit to share. I want to help somebody. So I want to read Romans 13th chapter, and I'm going to start with the first verse, and it reads, "Everyone must submit himself to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except that which God has established. The authorities that exist have been established by God. Consequently, he who rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted. And those who do so will bring judgment on themselves." So, and then it also, I want to read, "For rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong. Do you want to be free from fear of the one in authority? Then do what is right, and he will commend you." So, that was Romans 13th chapter, verse 1 through 3. 1 through 3. So I wanted to just, I'm going to not be on here long at all, but I wanted to just hop on here, comply. The name of this video, "Comply and You Will Not Die." So, and this is in reference not to anything, no video I've seen or anything. I'm talking about my son. So, I think this was maybe a couple of months ago, and I'm going to give you a little backstory first or after this, but I want to tell you what actually happened. So he was on his way home from work. So his car is sort of like a fast car, and sometimes when he's not trying to go fast, it acts like he's going fast or whatever. So I always get on him. I say, "Son, be careful, because here in Colorado, they're anywhere." I said, you got to watch the speed limit. And a lot of times it changes, you go from you can be 165 or whatever, it go 55, whatever. It go up, go down. I said, "Just be mindful." He said, "Oh, okay, yeah." So, my daughters, when they would ride with him, they said, "Mama, he be trying to go fast sometime." And I said, "Yeah, I done told him." I said, "A hard head make a soft bottom." And so anyway, we go back and forth like that. And so he I think it was either on Thursday or Friday. He called me and he said, "Mama, I was stopped by the police." Now at the time when he called me, they had already left, they were gone. And so he was just sitting where he was at. And so, and I'm sharing this because I want to help somebody. I feel like the Lord wants me to share this. And so, like I said, this was a couple of months ago, but he said, I said, "What's going on?" And he said, "Yeah, I got stopped by the police." And he said, they said I was going such and such miles per hour, but I wasn't. And he said, "I actually was not this time." And I said, "Okay, if you say that you was not, I believe you. I wasn't there. So all I can do is trust that you're telling me the truth." And I said, "So what did they say?" He said, "They gave me a ticket and they cited me, and then, like that." So I was like, okay. So he ended up coming on home and everything. And, but he was just sitting there because he was just thinking about what had happened. And so he was at the convenience store. And so, anyway, when he got home, he told me, he said, "Mama said," and all this was, he remembered what his late father used to tell him, because my late husband had a big thing about that, before he passed away, so many people lives being taken and not taken, but they did not comply when they should have. And so, it was just a lot of stuff going on in the news before he passed away. So he was real, he's real, big on that. He told our sons and our daughters too. He said, when the police stop you, you do what they tell you to do. Just do what they tell you, and you want to live, so you can live to see another day. Don't do nothing funny or nothing, questionable. Just do whatever they ask you, And so he was real big on that, and I am too. I still am. So my youngest son, he said, "Mama said, I did what they told me though," and that made me so happy, y'all. He said they told him to put his hands on the steering wheel, so they could, make sure he wasn't trying to do anything. And he showed them, of course, his license and all that, what they needed to see. And he said one was, sort of trying to trigger him, seemed like. That's what he told me. And because my son is in his 20s, but he told me, he said, "Mom, it seemed like one was super nice, but the other one was trying to, get some type of reaction out of me." And he said, I never came out of character. He said, I kept saying, yes, sir, no, sir, to both of them. And I said, that's right, son. That's what you're supposed to do. And so, you know, y'all, I pray over my children, even the oldest one who's not with us. I pray over them. I pray for God's protection over them day and night. I pray that, you know, just the angels, God's angels will just cover them wherever they at, whatever they doing. And I know God heard, he was right there with him at that time. And my youngest son, he has such a good heart. He's very loving and he cares about everybody. He reminds me so much of his late father, but he also is very responsible and he will do whatever he's being told to do, you know, by somebody older. He's very respectful. So anyway, he said, yeah, mama, he said, I did everything they told me. And he said, but he did notice. And I said that, well, that could have very well been an enemy using that other officer trying to get you, you know, so it'll be a big old thing. And he said, I didn't pay it any attention. He said, I kept saying yes, sir, to him too. And said, finally, he said it was over and said they just, you know, got him for going over a little bit over the speed limit. So I told him, I said, son, you know, that's wonderful that you did comply. And I'm thankful to God you still alive. You know, you didn't get taken off nowhere or nothing, jail or whatever. I said, that's what you're supposed to do. You know, that's what I told him. I said, you're supposed to obey. Supposed to obey the law. And I want to share too, when we first, a little bit after we first moved here, you know, I was just, you know, we were riding around, we were trying to find a place to live or whatever. And some of the lights, well, the area we were in, I felt like that light changed real quick. But, you know, a lot of time when the lights turn real quick, you know, you just still slide up under it. And I thought I was good. Well, there was a cop that was sitting in the cut. I didn't see the cop, but, you know, I was like, what? Because the only time I got stopped by police, it's been years ago. And I didn't even get a ticket for it. And I didn't get a ticket for this time either, for that time. But I forget the reason they stopped me in Tennessee, but that was years ago. But never ever have I been stopped. And so the gentleman was an older officer, and he found out I was a veteran and stuff. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but you know, I was letting him know we had just moved here, and I was a widow, and wasn't trying to do an old pitiful story, but I was just letting them know that's what was going on, because I was still grieving. I was still going through stuff. We were trying to find a place to live. It was just a lot on me. So, I was telling him the truth. I wasn't lying. And so he said, ma'am, I'm gonna excuse you, and I'm not gonna give you a ticket. And he said, best wishes or good luck on your home search. And because the area we were coming out of, it was just me and my daughters in the car that day, but the area we were coming out of we was looking for a house or looking for a place to live, and that's why we were even over in that area. But y'all, I just bust out crying, because I was like, oh, my daughter said, Mama, what's wrong? I said, and my youngest son, he had called me, because he was sort of we were all just kind of, he was in one area. That's when I had my truck SUV, so he was in one area not too far from us, and I was in another area. And so we later laughed about it, but at the time it wasn't funny, because they had never seen. They was like, Mama got stopped, but he didn't give me a ticket. I think he felt sorry for me, just to be honest. But I told him what was going on, and like I said, that's my thing, y'all. We be honest, and we do what people ask us to do when we get stopped by the police. We good. Why you getting mad? Why you getting upset? Why you getting uneasy? Just do whatever they ask you to do. They ask you get out the car, get out the car. They ask you put your hands on the steering wheel, just do it. Just do it. You have no reason to fight against what they asking you if you're not guilty of anything, But yeah, that happened, like I said, a little bit after we first moved here. And y'all, I was so just outdone by that, because I was like, okay, my daughter's in here. And it was sort of embarrassing, but then I was like, I was just a mess, because that's when we had first moved here. And we, like I said, we were just trying to find a place to live. I had so much stuff on my mind. And I seen where I went through the light. It had just turned red. I just glided under it. And yeah, he was on a motorcycle. And so he stopped me, and like I said, he said, I'm not going to give you a ticket. He said, I'm just going to give you a warning. And I said, thank you. And so he looked the car over. He said, you good. And he said, where y'all moved from? You know, he started talking to me. And so he was nice. But y'all, I had pulled over into the, because he told me to pull, I pulled up into it was a little service station right there, not too far from where I ran through the light, and or glided through the light. And so I just sat right there, and I was just boo-hooing. But then I wiped my tears up, and I said, you know, but again, you know, we can escalate situations ourselves when we don't comply, when we don't, you know, do what we need to do. And like I said, I'm not talking about nothing that's happening in the news. I'm talking about me. I'm talking about what happened to my youngest son. That's what this video is about. What happened to us, and how we were able to do what we needed to do to, you know, allow the officers to do what they needed to do. Because the other part of that, me and my late husband used to say that all the time, they want to, more than you realize, they trying to make it back home alive. You know, they don't want to be they don't want no confrontation. They don't want no struggle, no fight. They want to make it back home to their family. They got families. You know, you got a family. Everybody want to go back home to their family. But like I said, you know, and I'm not coming on here judging, but you know, just do what they ask you to do. Things will go a lot smoother, a lot easier, and you know, it's just how it is. But again, I just wanted to share my experience, my family's experience with police officers. And it was not, you know, we did what we were supposed to do. And we, you know, like I said, my youngest son, he said that the officer, one of them was being ugly with him, but he said, Mama, it didn't bother me. He said, I just kept looking straight ahead, and I did what they told me to do. I said, son, I'm so proud of you. That, y'all, that just made my heart so happy, because he young. And, you know, these children, they watch stuff on TikTok and all these different social media platforms, and that could have went a whole nother way. But it didn't. It didn't. And I think he said the nice officer told him, say, have a good night or something. So, you know, when you're doing right, right will follow you. You know, it ain't always got to be a bad outcome. It ain't always got to be a struggle, you know, a fight, you know, cussing and fussing. You know, it can be peaceful. But again, pray over your parents, pray over your children. Ask God to cover them wherever they go, wherever they be. And God will do just that. But also teach your children to obey the law. Teach your children, you obey the law. Cause see, I could have been acting a fool when the police stopped me. You know, oh, my late husband passed away, and you know, it could have escalated, me acting crazy, acting a fool. But I was calm. I was, and I'm gonna be honest, I was a little, you know, frazzled from that. Cause like I said, I hadn't been stopped, and I ain't been stopped since. But that was that's a little bit after we moved here, so that was in 2022. And so I was frazzled. I was very frazzled. But God, he was right there with me. And he'll be with us, y'all. We invite him in. He will be with us. He will protect us. He will guide us. But God ain't gonna be in no mess. You know, if you're doing stuff that's contrary to his word and contrary to, you know, what he would have for you to do, he ain't in that. See, that's where you're inviting the enemy in at. So as always, I pray you always hear Jesus speaking through me and not just me. I pray you've had a beautiful, blessed, wonderful day in the mighty name of Jesus. I pray that you were able to bless somebody. You were already blessed when Jesus woke you up this morning. And I love you, but remember, Jesus loves you so much more. The best is still yet to come for you and for me. God bless you. God keep you is my prayer. Bye-bye.